Tiny soldiers on the table march in line. Painted shields and swords, they shine so fine. Dice roll like thunder, sealing fate. In this battle of ours, let's not be late. Wargaming in miniature, no war too small. Battles on the tabletop, we'll conquer all. Heroes made of plastic, armies clash and roar. Wargaming in miniature, let's fight some more. Oh. Kings and castles rise where Soda can stood. Mountains made of books, it's a cardboard wood. Strategy of giants on a scale so flee. We topple empires with a cup of tea. Wargaming in miniature, no war too small. Battles on the tabletop, we'll conquer all. Heroes made of plastic, armies clash and roar. Wargaming in miniature, let's fight some more. Battlegrounds in living rooms, legends unfold in the chaos of dice. Our stories are told from the rookies of war to generals wise. The fate of tiny worlds lies in our eyes. Snacks to the side and the glue close by. We men, broken warriors, give them one more try. Cavalry rides beneath the lamp's warm light. On this tiny frontier, we rewrite the fight. Wargaming in miniature, no war too small. Battles on the tabletop, we'll conquer all. Heroes made of plastic, armies clash and roar. Wargaming in miniature, let's fight some more. Oh, let's fight some more. Let's fight some more. No. Tiny soldiers on the table march in line. Painted shields and swords, they shine so fine. Dice roll like thunder, sealing fate. In this battle of ours, let's not be late. Wargaming in miniature, no war too small. Battles on the tabletop, we'll conquer all. Heroes made of plastic, armies clash and roar. Wargaming in miniature, let's fight some more.
All right, hello again, everybody. This is Derek, and I'm coming at you with another Wargaming and Miniature video. All right, we're just getting started, so I have something in my mouth. I got a little bit of medicine that I'm chewing and I'm getting rid of. I got some buildings here I kind of want to show off, and I've got some fences over here that I want to work with today. And I plan to work a little bit on some town sectors. I had glued 3 French battalions to their bases this morning, and I'm waiting for that glue to dry so that I can go ahead and texture paste the bases. Now I'm planning on using the turned earth texture paste on not only these bases but also the town sectors that I'm getting ready to make. And because of that, I figured I'd make the town sectors up to the point where I'm going to be able to paste them and then paste them all at the same time. So once I get rid of this lozenge that I've got in my mouth, then we'll start the show in earnest. I had to dig out my pin vise. It was tucked away, and it took me a long time to find my fencing that I bought months ago to use on these bases. So I hope everybody is doing okay this morning. I'm moving a little slow. I've got some ginger lemon tea here. Hoping it will settle my stomach. Ginger is supposed to do that. I just noticed a ginger chew right there that if I ever need to jump in on it, I can jump in on that. My Skyrim live streams super late at night, early morning, have been doing really well. I mean, really well. Because normally on any of my videos, I would get 10 to 20 views same day, but overall in the long run, I get like 2 to 200 views maybe if it's a really good video. But live streaming, I normally only get 10 to 20 views. But these Skyrim videos, I'm getting upwards of 60 or 70 views live before I log out, and I'm sure I get a few more views afterwards. So I'm very, very happy about that. And if you haven't caught my Skyrim videos, or if you're into Skyrim and you haven't actually had a chance to watch my videos, you're not missing anything. I'm just playing the computer game. I've got a lot of mods running, and sometimes I will run into a problem like a crash to desktop or something like that in the middle of my game session, and I'll have to kind of do a little troubleshooting to find out what's causing the crash to desktop. One night, like 2 or 3 nights ago, whenever I went into this one cave, or if I didn't even have to go in the cave. If I got close to the cave, it would crash the desktop. And so I got used to like taking a few steps, quick saving, killing the monster, quick saving, looting the treasure, quick saving. And I got so used to hitting F5, that's the quick save, that I got into a fight inside this cave, but I wasn't trying to quick save. I was trying to use a potion that I had a quick slot on, which was number 5, and I pressed F5 by accident, but I was right there, right at the point where he strikes me and kills me. And if I had pressed 5 instead of F5, I would have drank a potion, I would have lived, everything would have been fine. But since I failed to drink the potion, he kills me. And then when I reload in, he kills me. I reload in, he kills me. I reload in, he kills me. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no way I couldn't beat the chain. So I had to go back a save, and which was 5 minutes ago, and yeah, it was a nightmare. That whole night was a nightmare. But we got past it. I figured out what was going on, and we got past it. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about these buildings. Now, as you know, I'm working on rebasing over time all my units for marshals and generals. Well, this 3rd battalion right here was based incorrectly, and I had successfully rebased it along with new basing on the 1st and 2nd battalion. So now this whole regiment is properly based for my marshals and generals. Okay, but so with marshals and generals, the game system that I'm writing, buildings are not going to be just on the green mat, right? Whatever tablecloth or green mat, or like right now I've got Games Workshop's mat on there. Instead of just putting it straight down on a mat, I'm going to put it on I'm going to set, I'll have roads and I'll have rivers and all that stuff, but there's going to be town sectors. I could leave it just like that. That's fine. That works. I could use a piece of felt. With my World War II guys, I was even using little metal bases for no particular reason. But yeah, you can use any like base. If you remember a game system called Command Decision, I used to have these giant HO buildings, much bigger than this. They're like about this big, and they would have a footprint maybe half this size, but they would have a footprint like that. And you're supposed to cut felt or paper or cardstock or whatever the size of the base of the bottom. What am I trying to say? The same size as the building, so that when you put the little felt paper down or whatever, and then you put the building right on top of it, it pretty much covers the felt and you don't see it. And the building occupies an area the size of what the building actually occupies. And then if you had troops that were entering a building, you would just pick the building up, and there would be a little felt piece of paper or whatever on the tabletop, and that's where you'd put your bases. Well, that's kind of what we're doing here, but because the unit bases are so much bigger, they're quite a bit bigger than these 20 by 20 is what Command Decision was on. And if you could imagine a 20 by 20 with two 1/72nd scale figures on it, that would be a platoon. And it worked great. We played hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of Command Decision. But and all of that worked just great with 1/72nd, 176, even HO tanks like from Roco or whatever. All that worked great. And then I've even played some games that don't require any kind of building template on the bottom. You don't even need to ever move the buildings. So like if you ever occupy a building, you just put your base back to it and you say you're inside the building. But because this game and a lot of other games are unit games where you've got multiple bases, you need to have, or at least I want to have, a larger footprint. So if you could imagine this building, right there, and these guys, if I put it back to back, it is still inside the template, right? Same thing with this other side. Because I put the building kind of in the center. So a 4-inch template with one of these buildings would be about perfect, right? Or pretty close to being perfect. But I want the game, now this is not even a 15 millimeter building. This is a 10 millimeter building, 10 millimeter scale. And I'm trying to be gentle with those guys because I don't think they're dry enough to put the paste on there. You can kind of see that they're probably just a little bit too big for the buildings. So like if you would imagine the roof, or I should say the floor of the second level, to be online with maybe this door here, all the way around. So it would go pretty much close to the top of this door, and the top of this window would be considered the roof of the ground floor. And if you were to put this on the base, because you can't give them a free 2 millimeters, right? If you put that on the base, their heads would still be taller than the roof. So they would be, which in an old building like this, that might or might not be correct, but it's still probably just a little bit too small. But on the tabletop, when you're gaming with it like that, you're not going to see any difference. You're not going to, this building and those troops are close enough to scale with each other that you'd never even tell the difference, right? Okay, so this building here and this building here and a bunch of these other buildings I'm about to show you came from a company called Battle Scale. Battle Scale makes some really good buildings, and they're resin, and they're 10 millimeter scale. And I've got they sell them in packages of 10 or 12 or whatever. If you want to buy a whole city or village, or you can, and they have different time frames and different locations, but it's mostly European. Okay, now there's another company right here. This company is actually a paper model. This is a paper, and I don't know if there's any wood involved in this. I think there might be some. Yeah, I think the 4 walls are wood, and then there's like a paper layer that you glue on. That's the frame. This building right here, and there's paper roof. This building is also 10 millimeter. It's actually from War Bases. I went to War Bases, and they've got this section of buildings. They don't call it 10 millimeter buildings. I think they call it mini hammer or something like that. Mini hammer buildings. But either way, they're excellent 10 mil buildings. I've got like a dozen of them, and there's a couple of different sizes. I've got like not skyscrapers, but like multi-story. I've got short ones. I've got, and they were like super easy to paint and put together. What I did when I painted these was I painted the wood while it was still on the sprue. So I just painted like the sprue white, right? And then the paper, I just painted like a brown. This is actually called flat red, but it looks very brown. And I just sprayed the paper. And the same thing with the roof. I just sprayed it while it was still in the sprue. And then I just popped everything off of their sprues, glued them together, and there was no need to do any. Now, the base is a wooden base, and I peeled it off of, I had it glued down on a piece of wood. I didn't like that process that I was doing. I was permanently affixing buildings onto bases, and I've decided to get away from the permanent and leave it where you can pick it up and put it down, right? Because that way, if a unit occupies the town, and there's maybe this is a large unit and it's got 6 bases, I wouldn't be able to fit all 6 bases on this base if this building was glued down, right? So I've decided to make town sector bases separate from the buildings, and then I can place any building I want on the town sector, and then you can move it, you can shift it or shuffle it or move it off to the side a little bit if you need to when gaming. A big advantage for these are they're lightweight. They're super lightweight compared to these resin ones, which this resin kind of weighs a bit. You know, I don't know how many ounces it is, but it's not a pound, but it weighs a bit. Where this, if I put this on the scale, it'd be less than 1 ounce. This is probably 3 ounces, 4 ounces, somewhere in there. But it builds up over time. If I've got 2 dozen of them, you know, then you're looking at 5 or 6 pounds that you got to lug about. Okay. And then finally, a limitation on these guys. There's only like 4. There's only like, okay, there's 1, 2. There's really only like 3 versions of these buildings. There's one that's a outdoor forge. They've got like this. The roof slopes out. It's a bigger square, and there's like not a chimney, but like a oven inside there where they would do like forgery. Not writing, but hammering, you know what I mean? And now these guys, there's tons of different ones, but these guys, there's only like 3 of them. But since I ordered like 2 dozen of them, maybe not that many, maybe a dozen of them, and I just painted them various different colors to give them variety. Now these guys, this is a actual model building, plastic model from, this one happens to be a Vollmer, Vollmer, made in West Germany. So that tells you how old it is. I've got like a dozen of these buildings, right? I've got just dozens of them. But in addition to it, I have this bad boy right there. You know, I don't know if you can see that, but it's like a burned out version of it. This company made, these are N. Yeah, they're not Z. I think Z would be too small. I think these are N scale buildings for model railroads. And I didn't paint them or anything. If you look at the bottom of this one, you can't really even see what it's written there. But basically, the the man that was selling me these buildings, he had this one marked at 1 mark because I bought it in Germany. I bought it in Berlin actually when I was there. He was selling it. He had a bunch of pre-made buildings, and I bought a bunch of HO buildings because okay, this is a different one actually. Okay, hold on. So I might be mistaken. It's the same size, but you'll notice this one has a chimney. This one does not. And this one has two back windows. And 2 side windows. The door is right there on the edge on the side. Where this guy, you can kind of see, he's got the door in the front, and there are no windows on the back. So at least there's these 2 varieties, but they have others. They have the, like I said, they had the 2-story one, and they have the forge. These guys, you could basically get any N scale building. Yeah, those are the like this guy. I've got this N scale barn, I guess is what it is. And this is also, if the way I kind of measure my buildings is I take a 1-story building. Okay, these guys are 2-story. I take a 2-story building along with a 2-story building, and you can see how similar they are. They're almost exactly the same. And you can look at the doorways, and you can kind of compare doorways to and roof, like floor, how tall the floor is, stuff like that. Like here's a barn. I think he's only 1-story, but because it's a barn, it's a little bit taller than a 1-story building. So you get the idea, right? All of these 10mm buildings, all of these are 10mm buildings, and these are N scale buildings, which, depending on who you ask or what convention that you're prescribing to, because there is, for N, there's what's called true N or tabletop N or something like that. There's something called tabletop scale, and then there's something called railroading scale. And I do believe in railroading scale, I think it's 10mm. And in tabletop scale, I think it's 12mm. So, and they don't tell you which one they're going by. But I think N works really good. I think N scale buildings work perfect for if you're doing a 10mm war game. They'll fit in with the 10mm buildings. If you're doing 15mm wargaming, as long as it's a mass battle game, I think 10mm works just fine, because it's not representing one building, it's representing a town, a village. I could even put 2 buildings on a town sector or whatever to kind of give you, to kind of really translate to the viewer or to the player that's not just one building, that's a group of buildings. It kind of communicates that to the player. If you have just one building, then it kind of looks like it's just one building, right? And in a lot of games that are mass battle, like Black Powder, Hail Caesar, Soldiers of Napoleon, Meg is even worse than that. They have villages, not just town sectors, and then you've got like even Command Decision. One building doesn't represent one building. it's supposed to represent a group of like 3 to 4 buildings. So just depending on however you want to do it. Yeah. Okay. So because it represents multiple buildings, I think putting multiple buildings on a base is perfectly acceptable. Now I've got this guy, which is pretty big. I really love my resin ones. I probably prefer my battle scale resin buildings to everything else. But again, I could put a couple of them on there. I could just fill the base full of them, and then as troops move in, just take the building and move it off to the side. You know, I probably wouldn't do that. But I would have to pick and choose which of the buildings that I would put together. But let me show you some of the other resin buildings. That's what I've got these out for. I wanted to show you some of my other resins before we start getting work done here. And these are not painted. Not painted at all. And I got these specifically to work for Napoleonics or World War II even. That's a massive building. That's giant sliding door. I do believe this building is supposed to be a gas station, an old original style type gas station. And they even sent me a gas pump, you know, if I wanted to do an actual gas station. And that would work in World War II, but not Napoleonics, obviously. Obviously. Now, I got their set of the Old World Village, which has all these. The shine you might not be able to see it, but it's got the wooden frame, the timber work, you know, on these buildings. And this one's even got the little overhang right there. Do you know why the old buildings, the old medieval buildings, had overhangs like that? I'll explain that to you here in just a second, because there's a chat that just popped in. Luke, hey Luke, good afternoon from London. Sorry I'm late. Hope you're all well. Looking great. Luke, you're never late. You're always on time. Just remember that. You're never late. You always get here when you're supposed to get here. Now, if you want to watch the rest of the video, the part that was playing before you got here, when I'm done, just go back and watch the beginning. But in the old days, in the medieval days, they used to tax owners a housing tax or a building tax. And the tax was based on the measurements of the ground floor, like how much ground your building was sitting on. So if they made the upper floors bigger, then it wasn't counted. It was the only thing that was counted was the bottom, the base of the thing, which I thought was kind of unique. Got another one here, another timber frame style house. It's got a little thing out. Now these all have the same type of roofs as these guys. They're slate roofs or shingles. Some of them have the stucco and some of them have the wood. Every one of these painted ones are stucco, but these are the wood frames, which would be more in line with these guys. Okay, but I have more. I got a small wood frame. Let's call this a cottage. I got a cottage with a little barn sticking out the side. Super good, super good. What else? I got a 2-story. This is probably a shop of some kind because he's got this bay window section right here, and then the whole front is covered by an awning. I thought that was really cool. And there's main door right there. Also a wood frame. I kind of went with a wood frame because I was trying to go for that old English or old medieval look to it. You know what I mean. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And then this is a little bit large, right? This is but it'll still fit on one of these bases. And so it'll work just fine. Then you just pull it off when you need to. It's an old carriage house or a carriage inn or whatever. Like someone would ride through here on the carriage and then they could get out if it was raining or whatever. Or it would go into a courtyard. These could also be used in the Middle Ages too. I wanted them to be multi-use, so I went with the Middle Ages. All of these could be used. Even the stucco, I think, could be used in the Middle Ages, and then they could also be used in the Napoleonic period. If I was struggling, I could use them in my American War of Independence, and even World War II, actually. And I got this little chapel too. I thought this was pretty cool. This looks like an American chapel, but it could very well be a English or European, French, or German chapel. And then here is a tower, stone on the bottom, and then it's got, yeah, lighting might be really messed up because these things are white and they're bright, and it whites out the camera. Yeah, that's a super tall, but that one came in the medieval set that I bought. And then this guy must weigh a full pound. This guy is the biggest one I've got. I mean, it's not as big as that one, but it's super tall. 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 stories, maybe more. You got the door that goes down into the dungeon, and then you got the door here. You got these little side stone supports to keep the walls from falling over. You got a back door right there. And you got all these levels, wooden frame with all these, what is this, the Tower of London? No, this is just some giant tower. The bell tower, or depending on, I got this one specifically for World War II, but it could be used in any genre. You know what I mean? And then finally, I've got a few other buildings. Let me see if I can make room for these. Let me put my plastics. And I need to decide how I'm going to package these, store them. I currently have them all in a plastic tub, but they all are just barely fitting in there. Like I put them in there like a Tetris puzzle, and I don't want to do that going forward. I want to just be able to lay them in. A tub would be fine, but I think I'm going to need to use 2 or 3 tubs so that when I do lay them in there, there's no struggle. I just lay them in there. And I'm going to not put foam. I was thinking I'd like make little foam, and then I could just put them inside their little foam areas, but I'm not. I'm probably just going to get a piece of felt, one for each of the buildings, and then just wrap it in felt and put it in a box. That's what I think I'm going to do. Okay, I've got these 4 other buildings, if you could call them that. Let me get rid of some of these big Yeah, I can't even put the tower standing up in this tub. It's taller than the tub is. I have to lay it down on its side. Okay. There we go. That's enough room. For now. I've got this. It's like a little rubble wall. Looks like it was probably a bigger building with rooms and stuff like that. There's a door that goes to the other rooms. So, it could still occupy a town sector. But a building like this, a rubble, just to make it look better, I think I would glue it down. And I think I would put rubble all around it, loose bricks or something like that. For that one. But something like this, I don't think I would need to, because that actually shows the outer perimeter of the building. And there's a lot of rubble and woodwork and stuff like that already piled on the inside, and there's some piled on the outside. So if I was to just paint this model, this could easily be just placed on a town sector to represent a ruined town sector. All right, I could probably do that with this guy too. And the reason why I would do that is, well, there's another reason why I might do that. It's like you got a building and then artillery comes in and blows this building up. Then I would just pull this building and replace it with this, saying you reduced it to rubble. But I've got a couple more. I've got this guy. He is very similar to none of my other buildings. Okay, it's too long. Maybe this one, but this is taller than that. I don't know. But yeah, there's lots of rubble on the inside. There's a second floor right there. You got your little walkway corner around that way. Not that you're going to be putting figures in there, but just, there's no way you could put figures inside this. Not unless the base whatever bases you're using could fit inside there, like Flames of War or whatever kind of base you're using. I wouldn't do it that way. I would say this whole area is rubble, and this just represents the fact that you reduced a building to rubble. Now, this one, I don't remember this one. You can see how big it is, right? And Flames of War bases or whatever would be able to fit on the inside of that. I'm not sure, but this I get the feeling like this is 15 millimeter, but it's still a little too small for 15 millimeter. So it's probably still 10 millimeter. It's just a very big building, Yeah, these guys have got to get painted. I don't need them painted. I've got these, and I've got the wooden ones. I've got the plastic ones. These are just going to be a project of love that's going to happen eventually, But but the reason why I got them out is not really to show them off, even though that kind of is the reason why I got them out. I'm planning on working on the bases, right? I keep saying it. Now let's do it. Yeah, and I suspect that if I just toss buildings into a tub like this every time, then they're going to get either broken or the paint will be chipped off of them or something. So before we get started painting them, I'm going to have to figure out a better way to store them. Which I pretty much already know. It's going to be more tubs with but I'm gonna wrap them with maybe felt. That's the plan. Okay, and the gas pump. Okay, let me put this off to the side. Now these are the bases we're working with. These are the different sets that I got. Okay, Luke, what else did you say? You say that tax was in Netherlands. It's why their houses are tall but very narrow. In England, they taxed windows. So we have older buildings with bricked up window spaces. Oh, okay. Good to know. Good to know. Good info. Now, some of these fencing are in HO, and like this guy right here, and it says HO on here somewhere, or does it? Just says accessories. It's made in Vietnam. Yeah, but there's three or four different types of fences in here, and a couple of them I can use on these town sectors. A couple of these other ones I would have to use on individual bases. Now this is N scale fencing, but I think they're more rural and less town sector style. I think they're more of a wilderness style. I don't think I'm going to use those either. These look like they are, this is HO scale. And I busted these guys out already. They're down on the floor here. They're country fences, and I don't think I'm going to use those. It's hard to say what I'm going to use, what I'm not going to use. Okay, now this kit is called HO, right? It's Central is the company. HO. And they have a bunch of sprues in here, four sprues, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of fencing in there. I don't know. I kind of want to use these. I've got these 15 millimeter fences, or walls. This is a wall. This is actually a 15 millimeter wall. And you can see how it's pretty properly sized. And I made some stone walls a long time ago. These need to be reworked. But I made a stone wall, just glued a bunch of cork. That's actually cork. I used to have a big bag of these cork bricks, and I used these short pieces, and I made a bunch of these short ones to represent being dug in for my World War II. Basically, my old World War II games, if you had like one of these pieces in front of your unit, then that unit was dug in, like foxholes or something. It was just basically a token to represent something. Now these are 15mm walls as well. This is a metal wall. I think it's 2 inches. This works. This seems to be a lot shorter to me than this wall. You know, these look like they're way different scales to me, but they're both packaged as 15mm. This one is even packaged as 15mm. And this would be a courtyard wall that you can't see over. This would be something, yeah, that's as tall as your figures. And that's a 15mm wall. Looks like a courtyard. I had a whole set of these, like 4 walls, a gate, 4 corners, and I found the whole set and I sold it on eBay. And then a few weeks after I sold it, I found this last piece and I was like, oh crap, I would have included this with the selection, but too late now. Yeah, and I only have 2 of these, which is weird. I don't know why I only have 2 of these, but I do. And I think I've got something around 8 of these or something like that. And these kind of give me the 10mm feel, you know. They give me the, I could glue these to the edge of one of these bases and it would feel like a proper town sector piece. And now part of this issue here is gates. Okay. Yeah, that's where all my little stone walls that I made a long time ago. Now I've got, I don't know how many feet of this that I've got, and I have corners and gateways and all kinds of things. But I think these, once I get these painted and I'll flock up the base of them and all that, these can just be laid on the table next to roads or something. They're not going to need to be attached to a town sector. And these guys, I don't know, they're uncommon. I've only got these 3. And these picket fences right here, I had already used on a few of my town sectors, or one of my town sectors, and this is all I've got left. This could very easily be put onto one of these bases. See, I could probably do it. I could probably arrange, maybe I can't, I don't know. It just won't look right unless yeah, there's no doorway, there's no gate or anything. And if now I could leave one side open, or I could even do something like that, and not put a gate. And because it's a stone wall, I could always put like a wooden gate or something like that in there. Or I could just leave it open. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of want to use these, but I also kind of don't. Because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like they'd be out of place. Okay, so I've got some of these rural fence lines. Um, they've they've got some broken fences and straight fences, and it's molded that way to make it look very rustic or wilderness like, but it's not long enough. Come on, give me just one of these. You can see it's not long enough. There's like a 1 inch gap over here. This is like only 3 inches long. Now there are shorter pieces to fill gaps. And I could always cut, I could always cut something so that it fits. Okay, that okay, that might work. This is going to be a pain in the butt. I think these, and plus that's rural. And I don't want my town sectors to have rural fences, if that makes good sense. I might be doing some work here off camera, but deal with it. Okay. All right, now I'm looking at this set of fencing right here, because that looks like picket fences. Oh, yeah, crap. Okay, picket fences. Now I'm trying to get as close to the edge as possible. And this set includes like a piece that you could use as a gate. One of them is 8 centimeters and 7 centimeters. So 7, 8, and 1, which I wonder if I cut one of these directly in half, if it would cover an entire side. We're about to find out. Okay, we're only going to work with one of these. Now on my other town sectors, I took my pin vise and I drilled out holes for each of these tent post pieces. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to put it on there and we're just going to glue it down. And part of the gluing process is going to be to glue the corners together. So that should give it additional stability. Okay, we're not going to worry about the fence line just yet. I just want to experiment with this. See, because I could glue these tip to end like that or whatever, and we would get the full fence line. Okay. If this is 60 and that is 70, what I need is 100. So I'm going to cut this in half and we will have, this will be a 70. I mean, with the 70, it'll make it a 100. That makes good sense. Now, I think I'm going to do it with this. Okay, not this one. Okay, let's push these guys back out of the way. Yeah, that works. Oh, that's like perfecto. And I'm doing this without my good glasses on. Okay, we're going to use Aleene's tacky glue. Oh, you know what? This is just going to be brown. I'm going to need to prime these also. What I'll probably do is just take them outside and spray them white. But I'll do that after the glue dries. Or I could spray them brown and then paint them white. That might be better. It'll wind up being like a wooden fence that was painted white. Now I'm not going to put the Aleenes against the plastic, against this plastic. I'm going to actually use probably some super glue for that. Let me think about this. I have plastic weld. But I think I'm going to use this Gorilla Glue. Yep. Okay. There we go. I got it canted down so the glue will go to the top. Okay. Now hopefully this glue hasn't dried up on me. Feels like it has. Nope, maybe not. It's just getting really close to being empty. I've got another. Oh, okay, here it comes. I got another one of those laying around here somewhere. Okay. So a 4-inch is almost exactly 100 millimeters. Almost. Okay. There's a piece already cut. Okay, we're going to go with the long one. Okay. Okay. So this one is going to go there, and it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to not only glue to the base, but it's also going to glue against the other fence, giving it a vertical support so it doesn't want to fall over. Like this one does. Okay. This one wants to fall over. That's all right. Let's get some. Man, that little burr doesn't want to come off. I thought I cut it off. I look at it at a different angle and it's still there. Okay. I'm about to get. Whoa! I almost glued the wrong thing. I'm about to get political on you guys. I just watched Andor. I I crammed season one in, which I'd only seen the first episode of season one. So I went back and I watched all of season one, which I enjoyed. I thought it was a good Star Wars. It's not, it's not like it's not something to write home about, but it was fun. It was good. It's good Star Wars. And then I watched the second season because it had just came out, right? Well, not the whole season, just episodes 1, 2, and 3. Which I thought was good Star Wars. I didn't think it was too um, outrageous. But then I watch some YouTubers, we'll call them reviewers, or, they're watching the show, and I'm checking out their reactions to it. Which different people are going to have different reactions, and that's why I watch, because I like to see other people's opinions, or I like to hear what they have to say about the shows and stuff like that. I kind of like that. Um, and I watched specifically this one left-leaning uh, review couple. Right? It's a man and a woman, and they do reviews on a lot of sci-fi and fantasy and comic books and stuff like that. Right? And so I watched them because I like to hear what they have to say, even if I don't always agree with it, which 9 out of 10 times, um, when it comes to like cinematography and stuff like that, I almost always agree with them. But when it comes to their opinions on what's taking place politically in this world, I don't agree with them. Oh, what's going on with my stomach? Okay. I think I'm going to take this ginger chew and see if it'll help. Yeah, I've been having some gas this morning, and maybe a little more than gas. Some heartburn, stuff like that. I'll be going somewhere with this. Just bear with me. Hmm. So I'm watching their review, and they're digging it. They're enjoying the show, just like me. I'm enjoying the show. But they make this comment that really gets under my skin a lot. And that's why I'm sharing it with you guys. Do you guys remember Star Wars in 1977? I do. Do I remember the Empire being portrayed as the evil empire? With the Emperor and his stormtroopers? And all their uniforms looking like it was straight out of Nazi Germany? I do. I absolutely remember that. Now, um, this Empire in Andor, and basically all Star Wars movies, the Empire is the evil, fascist, overarching, bad guys where the rebellion is fighting against them. And I'm not going to put glue on that side just yet. And they frequently make comments, offhanded, snide remarks, which I understand they're ignorant and they don't really understand politics. I get that. But they make these comments over and over and over. But the most recent one was there's this Imperial officer and he attempted to rape a one of the female leads in the show. She's part of the rebellion, but to this Imperial, she's just one of the farmer girls. I mean, because if he knew she was part of the rebellion, he would have done something worse. He would have killed her or whatever. But he attempts to rape her. She fights back and winds up killing him. But that's part of the story. That's no problem. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with, rape and all that, but I am okay with her fighting back and killing him. First of all, she's a rebel and she's trying to kill a lot of the Imperials. But the comment that was made by this YouTuber was, man, isn't this topical? We're witnessing Trump's America in real time. That's what she said. Now, first of all, Trump's America is the rebellion, not the empire. The empire was Biden's America. Biden is the warmonger, not him specifically, but the Democratic Party, they're the ones that want war. They're the ones that fund the military industrial complex, which I'm not against, because we've got to have a strong military. They're the ones funding Ukraine, which it needed to be done. Don't get me wrong. There's certain things that need to get done, but the way they're done is not always the best way. Okay. Oh. So I know which one I want to cut. There we go. Perfect. But my thought process is, in what world is Trump America, which is only 80 days in, is anything remotely like Nazi Germany in World War II? How many military officers are out there in our America are out there raping women? There might be a couple. It might actually exist. But you don't hear about that. That's not commonplace. That's not accepted or understood. So I don't know where this Canadian gets off on saying Trump's America. And we're living it real time. Or what? No, watching it real time. That's what I meant. She's saying that the empire in Andor is the same as Trump's America. And I just, first of all, I don't get it. She's a crazed leftist lunatic. Okay. With this and this and a gate, now I'm not going to put the gate closed. I'm going to put the gate, or maybe I am. Damn. Maybe I need to put it closed. Or maybe I was wanting to do like slightly open so that you could tell that it is a gate. Plus, it'll give support to the fence. Ooh, I could make it a double gate. I really could. I've got enough of these gate pieces. And that would give support to the part of the gate that's on the inside. Oh, we might do that. The reason why I was thinking I wouldn't do that is because I don't want the figure bases to get caught up on a gate piece. Come on, glue. If anything, I would have thought that Biden's America was the one that was full of fascists. And that Trump and his rebellion came through and rescued the empire, or Earth, the empire, America, because he went against government. Hmm. You know, the people of this country stood up and rebelled against tyranny, which was and is the Democratic Party. We, if you if you look at everything, we are the republic for which it stands, not a democracy. And so we are the ones that believe in senators and things like that. Yeah, I'm going to put the gate in like that. Yeah, that's going to interfere with troop placement like that, but it won't. It will not interfere with troop placement like that. Using my tweezers. You lose a little touch when you use the tweezers. But that's okay. That's all right. Okay, let's. So I made a comment. I commented on their video. I said, you know, I can't believe you're comparing 2025, the United States, to Nazi Germany, World War II. I just want to know how your brain, conflicts, what's the word I'm looking for? Conflates the two. Now, I do want to preface it. Well, I guess it's too late to preface anything. But I do want to acknowledge that I don't think that Trump is perfect. He's flawed. He's a human being. We're all humans, right? But I feel like he's trying. He's trying to do the right thing. You might not think so, and I might think he's doing the right thing. You might think he's not doing the right thing. You might have Trump derangement syndrome. There are people out there that hate Trump just because everyone around them hates Trump. They don't know why. You ask them, like, why do you hate Trump? Well, I don't know. I just don't like him. I'm like, okay. I know what kind of person you are. You're someone that goes with the flow, listens to corporate media and all that stuff. And you don't have, you have an NPC brain. You don't have a brain that can think for itself. You don't use critical thinking. You just accept. Okay. We are almost fenced in here. And like I said, I did order some ballast, or maybe it was talus. I don't even remember. But I ordered some. It should be in any day now. And I'd like to make a wall. Actually, my next wall is probably going to be made with cork. Um, I've got some cork sheets that are really thin, like maybe 1 millimeter. A 1 or 2 millimeter cork sheet would be great for making a courtyard wall. Yeah, that fits just fine. Okay, so you'll see like that door's that you might not be able to see anything. It's all brown. Got one side open a little bit more than the other. Yeah, so I'm going to make some stone walls. They're going to be like that, but better. More straight up and down and less of a big pile. But I'm also going to make some loose stone walls that look almost exactly like that. But they're going to have like a fence that goes along the top of them. Whoops, I almost put that in the bag. For the American War of Independence, there's a specific type of fence that looks like that. And then I'm also wanting to do some, maybe some hedges, maybe some, I don't know, a mixture of hedges and walls. And Yeah. So let me grab a building. Yeah, that looks to scale and it looks proper. It looks like it's definitely supposed to be there like that. um, this guy can go like that. Hypothetically, I could get 2 in like that. Let me try something different. 2 like that. 1 like that. 1 like that. Oh, and he's in there. Okay, so that's with the building and 4 bases of troops. I can get him. Well, that building. Different buildings are different sizes, but if anything, I could just put him in there. And say and then put this building off to the side and just say they've occupied the town sector. Okay. No more gluing. I want to let that fence dry before I prime it. These guys still haven't dried yet. They're close. They're almost ready to be put together. Oh, I'm guzzling this tea. Don't forget, guys, I have a sale and it only goes on for a couple more days. So if you want to take advantage of it, you got to jump in now. If you spend $30, you get 30% off your order. So you should definitely check that out. Also, if you spend $50, you get free shipping. So that's a big deal. Now, if you're in the UK, you wouldn't get free shipping. You'd get free shipping inside the US, but you would have to pay the international shipping, whatever that is. And I think they ship out of the East Coast, so I wouldn't think it would cost too much. But I don't know how eBay handles their international shipping, but what they make me do is pay for it to the East Coast, and then that's all I've got to do. I've only got to ship it to the East Coast, and they handle the rest. I think it's really cool because that way international shipping doesn't cost me an arm and a leg, but it does wind up costing the customer. At least it costs them the international part and not the. They save a little, is what I think. eBay's probably got a good deal. What I was going to do next is cavalry. I've got these guys done. I've only got a couple more French battalions to do. I've got, line battalions. I've still got quite a few light battalions that I need to do. So, but like Jerome's division pretty much still needs to be done, even though that's one of the regiments in Jerome's division. Um, but I was thinking I would do cuirassier. I'm kind of looking forward to maybe painting some cuirassier. Uh, just as a heads up, I painted these guys using that new flesh tone that I have, the Ionic Smart Color Neutral Flesh. I love this color. This is exactly what I want for flesh. As you probably already know, I've tried barbarian flesh. I've tried light flesh. I've tried tanned flesh. I've even tried centaur skin. I've tried basic skin. Basic skin from AK. Basic skin from Vallejo. I've tried medium flesh. I've tried medium flesh. I've tried flat flesh. And I've tried sunny skin tone. I've tried highlight flesh, which is still good for highlight. I tried radiant flesh. I've even tried elven flesh. Warm skin. Barbarian skin, which this barbarian flesh is way different than this barbarian skin. You can see it's kind of a brown. I've tried dark flesh, which dark flesh is a totally different situation. That would be like for Africans. I think that might be all the flesh that I have. If that's not enough, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I've tried all of these fleshes, and I always had to take a flesh and then mix it with another flesh to make it what I wanted. The closest I came was light flesh from AK. This is a good flesh tone. And then I would lighten it up with maybe a flat flesh or because you can see it's kind of dark, right? I would lighten it up with a flat flesh or maybe a basic skin tone, or maybe even a radiant, just something that was a little bit lighter. Basic skin tone would work too. But the core would be this light flesh, which is not light, it's darker than some of these. But then I saw that I'm always exploring for flesh tones. As you can see, I just can never get a flesh tone that I like. But then I got this one in. And this is exactly what I want. You can see the light flesh. I don't know if you can see that in this camera. But this is just a little bit darker than that. And that's what I want. That's what I want. That's why I always had to put like 4 drops of this in my palette. And then I would put like 1 or 2 drops of one of these colors, to kind of lighten it up. I thought tanned would be good, but it's still too dark. You know. Barbarian flesh is really good. It is really good. Barbarian flesh is pretty close to this, but not this. This ionic flesh tone it's 20 milliliters. It's got a mixing ball. It's made by the same people that do the Atom, the MiG, Jimenez, and it's also what I found was even after like shaking it up for like hours on end, it was still really thick pigments in my palette. I had to thin it out with water to get it to flow properly, which is a good thing. That means I can control its thickness. And I don't know. This is my go-to flesh from now on. These other fleshes, I could bundle them up and just not toss them, but I would. I could put them in a special location if I wanted to do that, because that ionic is the way to go with flesh. Now, if I'm doing Africans, then the tanned flesh or the barbarian flesh or the dark flesh would be the way to go for that. And some of these other, specifically the highlight, the Panzerace's highlight or the flat flesh, will work good as an actual highlight for the ionics. So yeah, that's a point. Those are all done with these were all done with the ionic flesh. Yeah, you're not good. I turned my focus off, I think. Let me adjust this a little bit. No, maybe I didn't. Maybe it's still focused. But yeah, that's ionic flesh. On top of this red brown primer. German red brown is what I use when I'm painting darker tones, like World War II, or in this case, the Greatcoats. Like if I was painting British with their red coats and their white or gray trousers, I would prime them light gray. But because I was doing the Greatcoats, I went in and primed them with the red brown. Yeah, so I don't really have any. Yeah, I was going to do horses, so I'm thinking about doing the cuirassier next. Now, in that process, I'm probably going to take my Brunswick cavalry and I'm going to rebase them during that process. There's Uhlans and there's Hussars. And I realized that if I rebase the Hussars, I'm going to gain like 3, maybe 2 Hussars are going to be extra figures. And looking at the officers for the brigade officers, they look just like Hussars. So I might take those Hussar miniatures and rebase them as officers. And then if I need to go in and give them a little touch up here and there with a different color, I can do that. But I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the extra Hussars and I'm going to make them officers. I'm going to have some spare Uhlans because that's supposed to be a very small unit. It's only one company, my understanding, which I think is 2 squadrons. So it's only going to be like 1 base. So, oh no, maybe 2 bases. 2 bases. Which is, or maybe it's 1 base. It's got to be 2 bases. 2 bases is 6 figures, and I think I have 8 figures painted. So there's going to be a couple extra figures. And the Hussars are only going to be 12 figures, and I think I've got 16 figures painted. So I'm going to have a couple extras of those as well. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I know I'm going to do some generals, but other than that, I don't know. Oh yeah, I'm going to do the cuirassier. The French cuirassier. Um, my brain is still working on uh, shooting, casualties, morale, movement ranges, command and control, unit stats, pluses and minuses. All of that is going through my brain. Um, I need to sit down one night and just sit down and do nothing but type up what's in my mind or play out on the table some ideas that I have. Because I'm a visual learner. So if I put I say that. I mean, that's a buzzword, right? But I want to put the figures on the table and kind of visualize how far apart they are and roll some dice and take casualties, take morale, roll some dice for morale, and see exactly how that mechanic works. Because I want it to be fast, fun. I want my rule set to be fast, fun, and playable. But I came across here, let me turn this light off. It might be bothering some people, might not, but I came across in my mind, my mind's compartmentalized, but I came across one of the compartments in my brain that remembered Napoleon's battle. But not just Napoleon's battles, but my complaint with Napoleon's battles. First of all, I love Napoleon's battles. Okay? Napoleon's battles is my first. It's really not. Okay. System 7 was my very first Napoleonic rule set. I have no idea anything about those rules or how to play it or anything. But that's what I opened and read first, and I was still in high school and I had no idea what I was doing. Then I joined the army, went off to the army, did the army thing, came back. So in the late 80s, I wanted to get back into Napoleonics. Not just World War II, because I was a big World War II and fantasy, sci-fi kind of guy. And so I said, okay, I want to do Napoleonics. And I had played a ton of Avalon Hill games. Tactics 2, Squad Leader, Third Reich, blah, 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 right? Tobruk. I had a whole bunch of Avalon Hill games. And I loved them. And so I said, you know what? This Napoleonic game is an Avalon Hill game. Let me go ahead and get that. And so I did. And then that was the beginning of the end. I was like all in. I bought figures. I I started off by basing my figures on the counters that were included in the game. It was suggested that you could do that, but eventually I ran out of counters, and I had to start making my own bases out of balsa wood, or I eventually, over the years, I made them out of not poster board. What is it called? Backer board for like painting or pictures on the wall. I had a like big sheet of backer board, and I cut it up into 1 inch by 3/4 inch bases for my infantry, and started basing all my stuff, and started doing cavalry like that. And basically, I did artillery, and I did it all right. Based them up and painted them, and I I said, you know what? I'm gonna get a battle that I thought was the a large enough battle that I could do, and um, basically have an end goal, that's going to have a lot of figures. And I picked Waterloo. Yes, there are bigger battles, and there are other battles, and um, there are battles with more British troops in them, but there was Brunswickers, there was Dutch Belgians, there was Nassau and Hanover, and all kinds of troop Prussians, French Guard, French Line, Cavalry, all there's a huge selection of unit choices that I could get. So um I dug into Waterloo. Okay. But as I was building my troops up, we I learned a lot in the early years. I started off with 1/72nd models, and I put them on double size bases, which um, later I probably should have put them on 1.5 size bases, not double, but I I put them on these big bases. They looked good, 1/72nd. They were all painted, and I had almost every figure painted for Waterloo in 1/72nd for Napoleon's battles. And I took it to a convention called NashCon that happens once a year in Nashville. And I hosted this game where I ran for the local crowd and people that came to this convention. And a a light bulb kind of went off in my head uh, that changed my wargaming. Uh, it changed my perspective of wargaming profoundly. The At the time I was young, I was in my early 20s. I uh, I love history, and I love learning about specific battles and how they took place and why they took place and what mistakes were made and who was the heroic characters that took place in those battles and things like that. That was really exciting to me to read up on these. Now remember, this was before the internet. There was no internet out there. This is all magazines and books and written material, right? And or videotapes if you're watching, because I had a whole series of VHS tapes on various battles. I don't remember what the name of the series was, but I had a series of battles that you could watch on VHS, and the narrator would talk about, what happened in that battle and stuff like that. And I was into those types of things. And I took this Waterloo game to this convention. And one of the guys there that I play with regularly, he's a regular at the place was originally called Games Extraordinaire, and that's our gaming club that we would play at. He was playing somebody. I don't remember who he was playing, but he was playing on the French side. And I had all the troops laid out on the table. His troops were laid out on the table. We're going by the rules of Napoleon's battles, you know, and he did something. He took his division and or whatever he was commanding. It might have been a corps or whatever. And he took it and he flanked all the way to the end of the table and up the side of the table. And my NPC brain at the time could not accept that he was not going by the historical plan. Like, no, you're supposed to attack straight up the middle, right? But he was not doing that. He was going around the flank. And my mind at the time, and I'm going to admit this, I had a hard time accepting that he wasn't going to just do what was done historically. I was thinking to myself, this is a historical game. You're supposed to play historically. You're supposed to do exactly what happened in history, and I'm supposed to see you get wiped out. You know, that kind of stuff is going through my mind. And he didn't want that to happen. He wanted to do his own thing. And I was like, shocked. And after that game, I was like, in my head, I was like, you know, I went to him like, why did you attack on the side? Oh, because they didn't have any defenders over there, and I saw an opening, and so I said I was going to take it up. And he goes, why didn't you attack directly up the center? And he was like, well, historically, you know, that corps or whatever would have attacked right up the center, but the way he had deployed his troops, there was nobody on this flank, so I figured I would, and that just kind of, a light bulb went off in my head that, oh my Lord, I've been kind of playing not incorrectly, but I've been playing stupidly. Like, he opened my eyes to a war game is to explore options and to test your ability to outthink and outwit your opponent, and not just like a robot do exactly what's done historically. If you have the option to do something different and you want to do something different, then and you do it, then that's on you. You know, it's like it's your gamble to do that. And that just blew my mind. And okay, my point is, what I was talking about, I was writing my own rules. Fast, fun, and playable, right? I want my rules to be fast, fun, and playable. But then I got to thinking about Napoleon's battles. And one of the things I did not like about Napoleon's battles, and this is, I'm getting to it. I know I went on a diatribe about my epiphany, but there's something about Napoleon's battles that is, the rule set is very complex. There are a ton of different rules, and they have them listed originally in like the first 4 editions. They were listed by the numbers. Chapter 1, paragraph 2, line 3, and they were numbered, so that if you needed to call out a rule to your opponent or to your allies, you could say check 11.3.5, It explains it right there. And then you could just flip to chapter 11. You could go to point 3, point 5, whatever. And you could find these rules super fast that way, which is a good thing. But the point is, there were so many rules that you needed to do that. There's a rule for this, a rule for that. And it became very nitpicky. But that's not why I didn't like it. Why I didn't like it was once you evaluated the rules and you knew them inside and out, which I do. I know the rules. I couldn't quote you the numbers. I couldn't quote you the chapter or whatever, but I know the rules. I haven't played it in a long time. That's why. While I was playing it, I could probably quote you the rules. Like chapter 7 is cavalry or something like that. But once you know the rules, like I did, and you knew the mechanics of the game, remember I'm talking about the game, not a historically accurate battle representation. But if you knew the mechanics of the game system, and you were able to execute that game, if you're able to execute the game, you can't lose the game. And I found that to be very bad. Once I got to the point where I knew the rules inside and out, and I played an opponent, I would just sit back, I would review the tabletop, which first of all, it was like I had a bird's eye view of a battle that an actual battle commander would not have. But as a player of the game, I can look down on the table and I could see where everybody's deployed. And I knew what the building's defense capabilities are. I know the movement ranges of the infantry. I'm allowed to pre-measure. I know the formations that they're in. I know what cavalry that is or what infantry that is. And I could sit back and I could say, by the first start, before I even started moving, I could say, if we do this, we're going to win the game. If we do this, and it was like chess almost. If we do this and they do that, all we have to do is this, and we're going to win the game. But if they do the other thing, well, then we're going to win it a turn earlier or whatever. So, and this at about, I don't know how many years it took me, but at a certain point, it became inevitable. I couldn't help it. It was just ingrained. I played so much Napoleon's battles. You cannot imagine how much I played. Every week, every weekend, we would play a battle, and I played hundreds of games. And big games, small games, meeting engagements, scenarios, Russian front, Western front, it didn't matter. I can say that I've never played an Egyptian campaign with Napoleon's battles. Never did it. But I played all the other campaigns, all the other areas, Austrians, Prussians, Russians, British, Spanish, Portuguese, whatever. And I could look at the table, I could look at the charts, I could see the numbers, and I could say, we win, right? I could guarantee it. And I was always right. At a certain point in my Napoleon's battles career, I got in about, 10 years into Napoleon's battles. 10 years. I'm probably in my early 30s now. late 30s, having played, I don't know, a couple hundred Napoleon's Battles games, I'm sitting there going, this isn't fun anymore. I sit across the table, and it's not like the game did it on purpose. It's not like the players are doing anything wrong. It's not like I'm doing anything wrong. I'm just sitting down and I'm maneuvering my troops the way I think would be best maneuvered on the table. And then I wind up just wiping out the enemy. And I had a friend that sat with me on one of my games at our club here in Clarksville. And I maneuvered a certain way, and he was on our team, and he didn't really know that much how to play, so I was kind of guiding him. I was like, attack up the center, do this first and this second, and I'd let him do his own thing, right? And he's doing his thing, and I'm doing my thing, and I'm thinking to myself, this is the best way not to guarantee a win, is by having someone on my team that maybe isn't as fluent in the game as I am and can maybe cause me a loss, right? I'm not just going to throw the game, but he caught on really quickly. He knew what to do. He knew how to do it because I gave him a very short refresher or a tutorial. I said, do this first, do that, and you're going to win. And so he did those things, and he won. And I did my thing, and we won. And he asked me a simple question, and going forward over the years, he would always say that to me, that statement that I made to him when referring to strategic games like Napoleon's Battles. The question was, why did I not try to take any of the objectives? And my answer to him was, if we destroy their army, we automatically win. If they have no army on the table, we win. And my strategy 100% of the time in Napoleon's Battles was to concentrate on where his units were deployed, how my units were deployed, and how best I could maneuver my units to destroy his units. And I would disregard any of the objectives because, you got to go take this town or you got to take this church. No, I'm going to kill his army 100%. He's going to flee the table and the game is over. I win, right? You can just assume that I just walk into the objectives. And so that's what I told him. And then going forward, over the years, we'd go to lots of different conventions. And when something was happening, Mike would look over to me and he would say, just kill the army. You will win. Because, you don't worry about the objectives. Now, if Napoleon's Battles put more emphasis on the objectives, like towns or bridges or rivers or whatever was the objective. If they put more emphasis, more point values on those, it might have tipped the scale where I became more concerned with that. But I don't know if you're familiar with Napoleon's Battles, but when you fight, you cause casualties and you mark figures there's 4 figures on a base, and you mark 1 figure for every casualty you do. And when you do 4 casualties, you pull the base off, and you just keep going until enough casualties are done. And at that point, it's usually about 50%. When 50% of the unit is destroyed, the entire unit is called dispersed. And so it's considered destroyed. And at the end of the battle, you count up victory points. And you get like 25 or 50 for a town. You get like maybe another 75 for the castle, or whatever objectives you might have held. But when it comes to the troops, you get 1 point for every casualty. So if I do 100 casualties, that's 100 points. But what's most important is you don't have to do 100 points of casualties. You only have to do 50, because the other half of the unit is dispersed. And once it becomes dispersed, it counts as a casualty. So I do, like if it's a 16 figure unit and I do 8 points of damage, I just got 16 victory points. And it wasn't very hard to do that when, depending on the size of the battle. Also, if it's a really big battle, go for troops. But if it's a very small battle, you might consider objectives depending on how many points there are. But probably not. But back to what I don't like about it. It was too easy to win. It was too easy to manipulate the rules in your favor. So when I'm writing my rules, and I know in my head I want them to be fast, fun, and playable, a word comes to mind: easy. Do I want my rules to be easy? Yes, technically yes. But I don't want them to be let me rephrase that. I don't want there to be a mechanic in the game that if you do a certain thing, you will always win. And that existed in Napoleon's battles. And this is the rule that I don't like in Napoleon's battles. I understand why it's there. It probably historically is a very good rule. I don't know how historically accurate it is, but it seems like it could be. If you have a brigade on the table, and I've got a brigade on the table. Now we're talking brigade, not battalions, right? So it's a little bit different scale thought process. If I have a brigade of infantry and you have a brigade of infantry, and I move up to within 100 yards of you, which is 1 inch in Napoleon's battles, I would think that would be about 3 or 4 inches in, maybe 2 inches, I don't know, in my rules. But if you get within 1 inch of the enemy, they cannot change formation. They are locked in to whatever formation they're in. Because the thought process is, if they start changing formation, like going into a line, or going from a line to a column, or line to a square, or whatever, it would make them vulnerable, and that unit that's within an inch would be able to take advantage of that formation change. So the rule mechanic is you get within an inch, you cannot change formation. So if you're lucky enough to have a cavalry unit on your side, you position it in such a way that it's on the left or right side of an infantry unit. Your infantry unit walks up and stops within 1 inch of the enemy. And then your cavalry, because you decide the order in which you move your troops. You move the infantry up now that you're within an inch. You take the cavalry and you charge the infantry, and they cannot change into a square because you're within an inch of them. So now it's cavalry striking a non-square. And so cavalry striking a non-square gets somewhere in the neighborhood of +7 on a D10 roll. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculously high. And the defender gets a -5 or so when undefended versus cavalry. And any time that you're hit and you're not in square, you're considered undefended. If you were behind a wall, you'd be defended. But if you're out in the open, like 99% of the brigades are, you're undefended. So that's like a 13-point swing on a D10. So one player rolls a D10, he gets a -5. Let's say he rolls maximum. He rolls a 10. -5, he's sitting at a 5. I roll the minimum. Let's say I roll a 1, but I'm +7. So I'm at an 8. 8 to 5. I just did 3 casualties to you, which is a lot. That's almost a base. If you don't roll maximum and I don't roll minimum, let's say we roll 1 off of maximum. I just did 5 casualties. That means you're going to take a base. You're immediately going to rout, guaranteed, unless you're Russian. I think they have a 6. And then my cavalry takes 1 casualty, pop, and gets to do it all over again. I get to go charge someone else. So if you're good, you can maneuver your infantry in such a way that you're within 1 inch of multiple units. And if that's the case, your cavalry can just go crush, 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 crush. Not to mention, if they're heavy cav, the numbers might even be different. But that's how you destroy an army. And it became too easy. On the flip side, you could do it this way. You could move your cavalry up to within 1 inch. Or you could even charge in with your cavalry. And if they form square, what'll happen is normally you would just bounce out. But if you bring up your infantry second, and as long as the infantry brigade has the same number or more bases as your cavalry, as the attacker, you get to choose which unit you want to use modifiers for. And in that case, you would choose the infantry because now the infantry gets a bonus against attacking a square. And you've got 2 units attacking, so you get a lot of bases. That's another bonus. But there's a good chance you'll cause a lot of casualties to the square. So you can't lose when you're doing a combined arms action. You just can't lose. And I don't want my rules to be so complicated that a rule like that is in place. You know what I mean? I don't know how to actually work that out, but I don't want the pinning rule to exist. I want there to be a consequence, but not a restrictive, like you cannot change formation. I don't want that. I want it to be something like, well, he's within an inch, so it becomes dangerous for you to change formation. You can do it, but there might be a consequence. That way, at least you have an option. And it's not a guaranteed win. You know, that kind of stuff. All right, guys. Well, it's getting late. It's 11:40, 11:30, and I've been on here for a couple hours. So I am going to let you guys go. I'm just sitting here shooting the shit anyway. So I'm waiting for these guys to dry. They're pretty close to being dry. I could probably texture those right now. But what I want to do is I want to paint this brown. And then what I'll do is I'll just dry brush some white, make it a white picket fence. And then we'll texture and grass and everything. I don't know. Should I put like a little garden in there? Should I put some trees? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just maybe a little apple tree. I've got a little apple tree I could put in there. No, not going to do it. Town sectors, no apple trees. Now, I've been thinking about making town sectors that were more than just buildings, like crop fields or gardens or cemetery grounds or something. That could be, you know, a variety of different things that represent like a built up area. But okay, but that's for later. All right, guys, I will catch you in the next one. I'm going to let you go. And I don't know if I'm going to be getting online tomorrow, but hopefully I will be getting online later tonight playing some more Skyrim. But I'm not sure. All right, guys. Don't forget, I have an eBay store. You should check it out. I got a sale that's almost over. I think it's over at the end of the month. And we got shipping, which is free on anything over $50. Got a lot of figures. I even have a guy returning some American machine gunners because he didn't like the miniatures once he got them. They were new. They were from West Wind. West Wind is... they do really good models when it comes to 15 millimeter, but they're 25, 28 millimeter miniatures. They don't look good without a little work because there's mold lines, but once you get them painted, I think they look perfectly fine. I've painted some, put them together, sell them. I think I've got some up there on sale right now. Like they've got flamethrowers and snipers and all different kinds of guys. But he bought some machine gunners, American machine gunners. He didn't like them. He's sending them back. He's going to get a refund. I have a 30-day, no questions asked refund return policy. So if you return it, you get refunded. Period. What else? Yeah, I've got the sale going on. Yeah, I guess that's it. All right, guys. I'm going to let you go. You guys take care.
A world in miniature, in fields of green and battle stage. A world in miniature, engaged with hands that guide the fates of men. The echoes of their clash begin. Each move a story, each step a tale. Through crafted lands where dreams prevail. The dice decide the fate unknown. A king